Hello and welcome to a brand new solo challenge on the channel. This idea was inspired by a video from a fellow creator named Retro Brown. Go subscribe and check out his solo challenges. Today we're going to randomize Pokemon Crystal and attempt to complete a solo challenge. The starters, trainers Pokemon, and the movesets are completely randomized. Let's check out what our starters are. We have Oddish, Caterpie, and Corsola. I put a poll on the community page here on YouTube of which one I should pick without any context. I was not expecting Corsola to win, so let's go get it. Stats wise, we are definitely doing very well in most aspects. I also checked what the base stats are, and to no surprise, defense and special defense are the best. Not only that, but we are starting with two very interesting moves, Double Slap and Psybeam. I can tell you right now, Psybeam will not leave the moveset the entire game, but just wait until you see what we actually get. Let's go over the rules of this challenge. The goal is to defeat Red with only Corsola. I will need HM Pokemon, but they cannot battle. All trainer Pokemon are randomized, so we will never know what to expect. No healing items in battle, but as a side note here, we actually started with the item leftovers. This is extremely powerful and probably very required. Finally, don't forget to subscribe and like the video for more. Let's get to it. First fight is the Rival fight. Rival does not carry his Pokemon from battle to battle in this randomizer. So our first major fight is with a Kingdra of all things. It's not a terrible fight as it just spams Sand Attack while Lucky Psybeams whittle it down. Not too crazy for the first fight, but it's only just begun. Our first gym leader is normally flying type, but definitely not today. Faulkner's first Pokemon is a Kabuto. It does not last long since we've learned High Jump Kick by level up at this point. The main theme of this challenge is being very over-leveled for every major fight except one. This is even just trying to go minimum fights here. Faulkner's next Pokemon is Venonat. With Psybeam, it goes down in one hit as well. Moving on, it's Bugsy time. After a couple of level ups, we now have Fire Blast and Hypnosis. First up is Dugtrio, and Psybeam is a 2-shot against it. Thing is, it has Thunder Punch? Sure, why not? It doesn't do much damage, but it sure is concerning though. Next up is Dratini, it's also a 2-shot to Psybeam. And finally, we have Charmeleon. This randomizer really has it out for me. Most of the Pokemon we encounter will have electric moves. It finally tries to flail when it's low on HP, but it just does not do very much damage with it. The win was definitely well won. Second rival is a bit harder to defeat. This one actually took a few tries. Raichu is first up, and it tries so hard to raise its physical defense, but we're using special attacks, so those are useless. It did try to Vice Grip, but only deals 2 damage. So yeah, Raichu will not actually be the issue. In fact, it's the next Pokemon and every subsequent time we see this one. Gengar. It knows Petal Dance. We are Rock and Water type, so yeah, it's doing ×4 damage. This one takes a few tries, but eventually I got smart and started going for the Hypnosis strat. It finally pays off, and after a few Psybeams, it goes down. Finally is Slugma, but it only gets one withdrawal out before it goes down as well. Before we go to the next gym leader, I'm going to show a sped up version of this fight with Ho-Oh. It knows Ice Beam and actually manages to get the freeze on Lucky. It doesn't do enough damage to knock out Lucky, as we just sit there, glancing at each other until it struggles and finally faints. With that, let's get to Whitney and see what her Pokemon are. First off is Skiploom. It has a super effective hidden move, but it does very little damage. And our super effective Fire Blast takes it out in one hit. Next up is Weepinbell. Psybeam almost takes it out, and we get double kicked for our transgression. Of course, it doesn't do enough damage and goes down anyways. We now head to Glitchxcity, and who else do we fight but our rival Brown? First up is Sneasel. While I normally have a rough time with them, it's substituted first before getting roasted by our Fire Blast. Next up is a Nidorina, a couple of Psybeams, and it will also go down with no issue. I realized in this fight that any Pokemon evolved via a stone will have the exact same moveset each time it's encountered. Sunny Day and Fire Punch is a good set, but us being quad resisted does not help its case. Oh yeah, and there's also a Donphan, which is pretty cool. Anyways, moving on. We have Morty, the 4th gym leader. This fight took a few tries to get through. Rhyhorn is easy enough since it doesn't do much damage. Alakazam, on the other hand, can wipe me if it just so pleases. It knows Bone Club, which is super effective and can flinch. My best bet on this fight was just pray Fire Blast hit twice to get through it fast. Of course, Alakazam isn't really the only issue. His 3rd Pokemon, Murkrow, has Earthquake with a pretty good attack stat. Of course, if I had been smart and used the new move we obtained, Rollout, it would have been a piece of cake. Sort of like the final attempt at him. Oh yeah, his last Pokemon is Charizard, but a maxed out Rollout just wipes it clean off the plate. Alright, I'm gonna speed through Chuck, as it was probably the easiest fight I've ever had. But Jasmine, again, was another story. Her first Pokemon, Lantern, is just a pain. It has High Jump Kick, which is super effective against Lucky, and it's also very tanky. Once it finally goes down, Tentacool is up, and it knows Vine Whip. Again, Grass is a huge weakness of ours, and I feel most Pokemon in this randomizer either knows an electric move or a grass move. The second time around, we make it to Tentacool with full HP, and it took half of our HP just to finally take it down this time. Finally, we have Charmeleon with Thundershock, but with Rollout, it goes down quickly. Just like with Chuck, I'm going to show a sped up version of this fight with Bryce. It was extremely easy, and there's really not much to say about it. This randomizer really does some crazy things. Rocket Tower was not much to speak about. The only fight worth actually mentioning was the rival fight, and even that was not difficult at all. Mareep is first, but it's down quick. Next up is Venusaur, but it can't keep up to a Fire Blast. Right after that was Jumpluff, who also cannot deal with a Fire Blast. Next up is a bulky Blastoise. Typically Shadow Ball would deal some pretty good damage, but our defenses are incredibly high right now. It takes a few turns, but eventually the Psybeam attack whittles it down and knocks it out. Last up is Rhydon. It tries to fire off a Future Sight, but comes up short of its own future. Rocket Tower complete, and now we can actually head to the final gym leader, Claire, to contend with. The randomizer does seem to be nice with a lot of nice and easy fights to contend with. First up is Nidorino, and of course, one Psybeam is enough to take it down in one hit. Next up is Golbat. It gets a Sand Attack off before going down to a couple of Psybeams. Third is Heracross, who has Vine Whip, but it doesn't do much damage, and a couple of Psybeams will take it down. Finally is Arcanine. Since it's the same fight as last time, I'll just say this. I did as little of fights as possible, and still, Lucky is very over-leveled. With that, let's head to the final rival fight in the Victory Road. The only threat in this fight was Dragonair. While this fight's going on, I would like to thank everyone for the support lately. I restarted my journey in January, and I've met so many new and amazing individuals that just make me extremely happy. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video though. Also, if you want the controller I'm using for these challenges, check out the link in the description. Now, with the rival down, let's check out our stats and see where we stand. Our defenses are both really high, and this special attack is really good. We'll be running Fire Blast, Psybeam, Hypnosis, and Rollout. What do you think? Can Lucky take down the entire Elite Four? First up is Will. I begin using Hypnosis to attempt putting the opponent to sleep just to help with dealing with damage. It also helps a lot keeping the damage from Blastoise low. With the many Psybeams we used to take it down, I'm surprised we didn't take more damage. Of course, the next Pokemon is Nidoran Male, and a Psybeam will take it down. Third up is Granbull, and this is where things can end pretty bad. It has Razor Leaf, and our Psybeams just do not do much damage. Still, Razor Leaf deals about 40 damage, even after a 4 times effective hit. At this point, I fire off a Fire Blast, and hit it to knock it out completely. Gligar is next, and it isn't much to deal with. And finally is Magmar. It doesn't have good attacks, but after 2 rollouts, it goes down. Now we have Koga's turn. Of course, he starts with my favorite Pokemon, Typhlosion. It uses Super Fang to half my HP while I start working on getting rollouts going. It's kind of scary since I don't know what's actually coming up. Feraligatr is next, and after all the rollouts, it goes down, but not before reducing our attack. Of course, we get the 5 rollout and take down Grimer with ease. His 4th Pokemon is Jumpluff, and it uses Spark to deal about 20 damage, but our Fire Blast fires off, knocking it completely out. Finally is Skiploom, once again a Fire Blast to knock it out. With Koga defeated, it's now time for Bruno. His first Pokemon is Seadra. A critical Psybeam takes it out before it can deal any sort of damage to us. Next up is Executor, but it falls easily to a Fire Blast. Quagsire is a pain to deal with. It has good defenses like Corsola does, but it has the move Dig, which is stab and super effective against us. The first attack does critical damage and half HP. It is a threat, but we do get it down with a little less than half HP. Next up is Remoraid. Lucky doesn't quite knock it out on the first attack and gets pounded for that. Of course, I just start the rollout process. His final Pokemon is Spinarak, and with rollout going, it's down quickly, and Bruno falls as well. Finally comes Karen. Typically, she is a difficult one to take care of. This time is very crazy. She starts with Gyarados, but quickly switches to Dragonair. It does not get the chance to act as a 2 times rollout with critical takes it down. Next up is Psyduck, and rollout continues and takes it down. Her next Pokemon is Magneton. Rollout continues, and it doesn't quite knock it out, but it does get a barrier off to increase defense. Of course, it falls next turn though. Her crazy 4th Pokemon is Pichu. It tries to Fury Cutter, but it just does not do much damage, and she wastes turns with max potions to fully restore it and prolong the fight. Of course, here comes back the Gyarados, and we start rollout. She fires off a Thunderbolt and paralyzes poor Lucky. She breaks through and knocks out the Gyarados with the final rollout. It's time for Champion Lance. This is a fight I was definitely not prepared for. First up is Bayleaf, and a Fire Blast will take it down easily. Second up is Meganium. The first Fire Blast misses, and it just uses Splash and wastes its 1 chance to knock Lucky out. The next Fire Blast will knock it out. Next up is Meowth, and it uses Roar first, bringing a different Pokemon out. I decided to just let it knock out the Pidgey just in case, and let Lucky return to the field afterwards. The Meowth gets knocked out from another Psybeam, and next up is the bane of my existence, Jolteon. It has Spore, and puts us to sleep, and Dragon Rage to knock us down 40 HP no matter what. I got extremely scared I would lose to this, but we turn it around and put Jolteon asleep, forcing Lance to use his Restores. Of course, it does also have Recover to heal damage. The thing is, this goes on for so long before it finally gives in to sleep, and Lucky gets it down. His 5th Pokemon is Persian. It Powder Snows Lucky, but then goes right to sleep. Immediately, Persian wakes up and uses Attract, which works. We get a few turns to heal due to leftovers since Powder Snow doesn't really do much damage, and we just keep not being able to attack due to Attract. Finally, we get a Fire Blast out to knock it down. Final Pokemon is Golem with horrible special defense. This thing fires off Zap Cannon to deal massive damage and paralyze us in the process. Oh, and to add insult to injury, it will also Confuse Ray us. Lucky gets hit with yet another Zap Cannon before firing off his Psybeam to put it in knockout range. At this point, it's one wrong move and we lose. Did I mention I forgot to save the entire time I was in the Elite Four? It shoots off one more Zap Cannon, bringing us to 15 HP, and Lucky breaks through Paralysis and Confusion to hit a Psybeam to take down the champion. As with all Johto games, there is yet another region and set of badges we need to collect in order to fight the one true final boss. The only fight I'm showing, because it was the most difficult one we had, was Blue. The fight took 3 attempts to do. The first attempt, we could not hit Fire Blast and kept getting Mega Drained from it. Eventually, after a bit, we took too much damage before taking Wigglytuff down. Tauros is next, and it just destroys us with Bone Meringue. Second attempt, we get to Tauros with full HP and using Rollout. We take a lot of damage from Bone Meringue, but we do get the Tauros down. His next Pokemon is Chikorita. Unfortunately, I used Psybeam on accident, and it actually pulls off a Perish Song. It's basically a guaranteed loss at this point because I cannot knock out 4 Pokemon in 3 turns. Either way, we do make it to Dratini on the third attempt with full HP and no Perish Song. It goes down easily, and finally is Ladian. I don't quite get it down before it starts minimizing itself. Blue also fully restores it, and we have to do this all over again. I decide to try Psybeam and get a lucky confused status on the Ladian. It minimizes again, but crazy enough, Fire Blast actually hits this time and knocks out the Ladian. We have one final challenge ahead of us. Can Lucky complete the ultimate challenge and win? Let's find out. Red is our final challenge, and his first Pokemon is Magby. Essentially, my strategy is to put Magby to sleep and begin rolling out. Problem is, the growl will take its toll on us due to the attack drop. Of course, it doesn't stay asleep long enough and fights back with its own rollout. Ours is a little stronger, and we finally knock it out. Next up is Tentacle. It opens with Icy Wind to knock our speed down, but our rollout takes care of it. Of course, it wouldn't be a final fight without seeing a mythical pop up, right? Mew is next up, and this is where I lost a lot of runs. It knows High Jump Kick, and more often than not, will succeed with hitting. All it takes is 2 hits, and we are down. On one lucky attempt, we actually get a critical to take Mew down in 1 hit. His next Pokemon is Dragonair, and our rollout is still going at max power to take the dragon down. His 5th Pokemon is Sunkern, and a Fire Blast will deal with it. Now his final Pokemon, and the final true boss of this fight, is Vaporeon. It's faster than Lucky, knows Outrage, and is just a pain to deal with. Of course, this attempt was a fail. Now for the one true good attempt. We start off with Magby missing its growl and going straight to sleep. Of course, it does like to wake up and attack with Rollout, but we put it promptly back to sleep. This time it stays asleep, and Rollout after 2 attacks takes it down. Tentacle still gets an Icy Wind off to reduce speed, but it cannot take one of the rollouts. Mew actually survives the rollout and gets lucky with High Jump Kick for massive damage. Next turn, Rollout will finish it off. Now it's Dragonair's turn. I just go all in with Rollout at this point and hope for the best. Dragonair was taking the hits, but on its final turn of being there, hits Lucky with a Bone Club for massive damage. It eventually goes down, and out comes Sunkern. It doesn't stand a chance and goes out on the 4th rollout. Finally, we have Vaporeon again. It's still faster and gets the Outrage off, leaving Lucky with only a 7 HP. Our 5th and final rollout deals enough damage to take Vaporeon out in 1 attack. Well, that last fight was definitely the hardest of the entire game. What did you think of our randomized Crystal Solo Challenge? Let me know in the comments what you would like to see done. Next week, we go back to Brilliant Diamonds in hopes of taking on the game with Larvitar. If you're new to the channel, welcome, and make sure you hit that subscribe button as well as the like button. Also, I have a Discord server if you're interested in joining. Click the link in the description below. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.